Welcome back to the channel Rare Penny Empire everyone to another exciting video where today we dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins and take a closer look at one of the most talked about treasures in American numismatics, the 1977 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that at first glance seems like nothing more than a simple piece of pocket change worth only 25 cents, yet because of its unique history, minting errors, and mysterious qualities has been valued by collectors and experts at a staggering $22 million, a story so incredible it could easily belong to the shelves of legendary pawn shops like those seen on famous shows such as Pawn Stars, where rare finds suddenly change hands for life-altering sums of money. And this is exactly the kind of story that keeps collectors, historians, and treasure hunters awake at night wondering if they too might be carrying such a fortune in their pockets. So let's unravel together how a coin minted in Denver in 1977, featuring the iconic portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan and bearing the timeless word liberty above his head, could rise far beyond its humble face value and capture the imagination of the world. Now when we talk about the 1977 Washington quarter, we have to first set the stage with the broader history of the Washington quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. Intended initially as a one-year issue but quickly becoming the permanent design that has carried forward for decades with only slight changes until the state quarters program of the late 1990s, and within that long history certain years and certain mint marks develop unique stories, either due to low mintage, minting mistakes, or unusual varieties that slip through the careful processes of the United States Mint, and 1977, though not immediately famous like the 1932 D or 1932 S key dates, holds its own special place because of the Denver struck quarter with an error so unusual that it has been appraised in the tens of millions, turning what was once just one of hundreds of millions of coins into one of the most desired rarities in the numismatic world. The Denver Mint, represented by the D mint mark, was responsible for producing an enormous number of quarters in 1977, and in fact over 256 million examples rolled out of the presses, so by all appearances the coin should have been among the most common and accessible of all Washington quarters. Yet this particular specimen stands apart because of a minting mishap tied to its mint mark placement, planchette strike, and potential double die features that collectors always seek out, and those factors combined with the coin's pristine preservation created a near-mythical status, making it a kind of holy grail for coin enthusiasts worldwide. And as with all numismatic treasures, rarity alone does not determine value. It is the combination of rarity, demand, historical significance, and above all condition that makes a coin cross over from collectible into legendary status. Which is exactly what happened with this 1977 quarter dollar, now spoken about in whispers as being worth over $22 million. Imagine walking into a shop like the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas, the very place where Pawn Stars made history with its incredible deals and finds, and pulling out from your pocket a 1977 quarter only to have an expert lean in with a magnifying glass and suddenly go wide-eyed as they realize they are staring at the ultra-rare error coin. The single example in mint state condition with unusual characteristics that transform it from loose change into a generational fortune, and that is precisely why collectors are obsessed with error coins, because they tell the story of human imperfection within machines that are supposed to be flawless, capturing a tiny mistake forever in metal, and those mistakes become monuments of value. And in the case of the 1977 quarter, this could include a misplaced mint mark, a double die obverse where the lettering or date appears doubled, an off-center strike, or even an unusual planchette composition error where the coin is accidentally struck on a foreign or experimental blank, all of which are documented possibilities in the world of US coinage, and any one of them can skyrocket a coin's price, especially when paired with incredible preservation like a high mint state or proof-like finish, and it is this combination that pushes the story of the 1977 quarter into legendary territory. The coin itself displays the familiar Washington bust on the obverse, the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, and the date 1977 below, while the reverse features the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings clutching arrows and olive branches designed by Flanagan, yet it is precisely because it looks so ordinary to the untrained eye that it holds such dangerous charm. For hidden within its metal lies the difference between 25 cents and $22 million, and that duality is what excites collectors and historians alike, because in the end coins are not just about monetary value, they are about stories, about history in your hands, about the accidental masterpieces that slip past government controls and enter circulation unknowingly, waiting to be discovered by a sharp-eyed individual who realizes they are holding not just currency but treasure. When we look at the marketplace for rare coins, it is important to note that values like $22 million are not given lightly. They are the result of extraordinary auctions, private sales, and bidding wars among elite collectors who desire not just an object but the prestige of owning something unique in the world, and the 1977 D-era quarter falls into that category of numismatic legend where scarcity, condition, and myth converge, making it as much an artifact of human fascination as it is a monetary instrument. And while most 1977 quarters are still worth only their face value unless in high-grade uncirculated condition where they might fetch a few dollars, this particular specimen represents the exception that proves the rule, a once-in-a-generation find that makes people comb through their change jars and collections in hope of stumbling upon a fortune disguised as pocket change. Error coins have always fascinated the numismatic world, from the famous 1955 double-die Lincoln cent to the 1937 D3-legged Buffalo nickel and the 2004 Wisconsin quarter with its extra leaf. Each of these pieces has achieved fame and fortune for their owners precisely because they reveal the unpredictability of minting. And the 1977 D Washington quarter joins this elite pantheon of error coins, elevated further by the law of its valuation, making it not just an object of collecting but an object of dreaming, and one can imagine the thrill of discovery, the careful submission to grading services like PCGS or NGC, the mounting anticipation as experts verify its authenticity, and finally the explosion of headlines when such a coin crosses the auction block fetching millions beyond imagination, cementing its place as one of the most valuable quarters ever known. So the next time you reach into your pocket, glance into your change drawer, or spill out the contents of a coin jar that has been sitting forgotten in the corner of your house, remember that hidden among the ordinary coins of daily life could lie the extraordinary, a 1977 D Washington quarter dollar worth not cents but millions, a coin born from a mistake yet transformed into perfection through rarity, and the very kind of find that transforms lives and fills the dreams of collectors around the globe, a reminder that sometimes history does not sit in museums or archives but jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right moment to reveal its incredible story. Thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of coins, collectibles, hidden treasures, and incredible finds that make ordinary objects worth millions, because today we are exploring the fascinating history and jaw-dropping value of a simple $quarter coin from 1983, the Washington Liberty Quarter of the United States of America, a coin with a face value of just 25 cents but carrying a shocking worth that has stunned collectors, historians, and even experts on shows like Pawn Stars, because this particular coin is said to be valued at a staggering $6 million due to its extraordinary rarity, the peculiar mistakes during its minting process, error patterns, mint mark anomalies, and the unpredictable magic of numismatics that can turn a coin from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. And when we talk about a $quarter minted in 1983, we are immediately reminded of an important period in United States coinage, a time when the U.S. Mint faced technical and production challenges, when many coins entered circulation without being minted in proof sets, making 1983 a fascinating year in American currency history, because most collectors know that quarters from 1983 were not released in the standard mint sets, which means that well-preserved examples are already scarce, but when you add errors, mint mark mysteries, and rare variations, the value soars into the stratosphere, and that is exactly what happened with the legendary 1983 Washington Liberty quarter dollar that has captured headlines and imaginations, leading experts to estimate its worth at $6 million, a number that seems unbelievable until you learn the reasons behind it. This quarter, like all Washington quarters, carries the profile of George Washington, the first President of the United States, a design first introduced in 1932 during the bicentennial celebration of Washington's birth, and over the decades the Washington quarter became a standard piece of American pocket change, carrying the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and the denomination quarter dollar. And in 1983 the coin continued with the same core design, but what made certain pieces from that year so valuable is not the normal imagery but the mistakes that slipped past the quality checks, because unlike paper currency where misprints are sometimes obvious, coin errors can be subtle, hidden in the strike, the lettering, the rim, or even the mint mark that tells us where the coin was made. And collectors have long known that some of the most valuable coins in history owe their worth not to their intended perfection but to the tiny flaws that make them unique. In the case of the 1983 Washington Liberty Quarter, the $6 million valuation comes from a remarkable set of circumstances. including off-center strikes where the design does not align properly, double die errors where the inscriptions or images look doubled, die cracks that create unusual raised lines on the coin, and missing mint marks that add layers of mystery. Because coins are supposed to carry clear indications of where they were struck, such as P for Philadelphia, D for Denver or S for San Francisco, and when that mark is missing or incorrectly struck, it transforms a coin into a rare anomaly, and these errors combined with the scarcity of uncirculated 1983 quarters make this particular piece one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. Imagine walking into a shop like the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop, home of the hit show Pawn Stars, and pulling out what looks like an ordinary quarter from your pocket, only for the experts behind the counter to gasp in disbelief because they recognize it as the legendary error quarter, the $6 million coin, and as fans of the show know, the negotiations around such items are filled with tension, excitement, and disbelief. Because how do you put a price tag on a small piece of metal that holds within it the quirks of history, the mistakes of machines, and the hunger of collectors from around the world, all fighting to own it? And that is why this coin has made such waves, because it is not just a piece of silver-colored metal, it is a story, a mystery, a once-in-a-lifetime find that bridges everyday commerce with extraordinary wealth. When we look deeper into why the 1983 quarter has become such a legend, we must remember that error coins occupy a special place in collecting, because perfection is mass-produced but imperfection is unique, and just like art collectors value a rare painting or stamp collectors treasure a misprinted design, coin enthusiasts chase after the rare anomalies that slipped past the minting process. And 1983 was a year where many collectors noticed significant variations, including planchet errors, where the metal blank used to strike the coin had imperfections, broad strikes where the coin spreads out abnormally because of a collar malfunction, and clipped planchets where part of the coin's edge is missing, all of which increase rarity and value. And when a coin combines multiple such anomalies, it becomes a legend, with prices skyrocketing not by hundreds or thousands but by millions, and in this particular case, appraisers and experts believe the $6 million valuation reflects both the coin's uniqueness and the feverish competition among wealthy collectors who want to claim the bragging rights of owning the rarest Washington quarter in history. Now, let us not forget the irony here, because a $quarter is worth 25 cents at face value, yet because of its mistakes, its scarcity, and the fascination it generates, one single example has been valued at $6 million, making it worth 24 million times its original denomination, a ratio that boggles the mind and illustrates the strange beauty of numismatics, where a simple coin that might have been used to buy a gumball in 1983 could now buy a mansion, a luxury car, collection, or an entire lifetime of security. And this contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary is what makes the story so captivating, because it reminds us that treasures may lie hidden in plain sight, tucked away in our change jars, old wallets, or inherited coin boxes from grandparents who never knew they were holding fortune in their hands. Collectors often say that identifying rare coins is both an art and a science, and with the 1983 quarter the key signs include checking the lettering for doubling, inspecting the date for distortions, examining the rim for unusual spreading, and looking carefully at the mint mark or absence thereof, because these are the details that separate a $6 million coin from a common one worth face value. And this is why coin experts carry magnifying glasses and spend hours poring over their collections, hunting for that one anomaly that could change everything. And when such a coin emerges, it creates a sensation not only in the collecting community but also in the wider public, inspiring stories on television, articles in newspapers, and heated debates about value, authenticity, and provenance, because rarity without proof means little, but once authenticated by trusted grading companies and appraisers, a coin like this becomes a certified miracle of minting, destined to attract million-dollar bids at auctions or private sales. The Washington Liberty Quarter has always symbolized American history and pride, with George Washington's image reminding citizens of the Founding Fathers' legacy. But in the case of the 1983 error coin, it also symbolizes luck, fate, and opportunity, because it is a reminder that mistakes, far from diminishing value, can sometimes create it, turning flaws into fortune. And that paradox is at the heart of why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for a small disc of metal, because they are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story, a legend, a piece of history that no one else can own. And the 1983 Washington Liberty quarter worth $6 million is perhaps the ultimate example of that principle. And as we reflect on it, we realize that numismatics is not only about money, metal, or design. It is about human curiosity, the thrill of discovery, the joy of holding something rare, and the dream that even the most ordinary object in your pocket might carry an extraordinary secret. So the next time you reach into your wallet or sift through your change, pause for a moment and look closely at the coins in your hand, because who knows, hidden among the ordinary Washington quarters might be an error, a variation, a misprint, or a missing mark that transforms your 25-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and perhaps one day it will be your coin that makes headlines, stuns the experts, and walks into the spotlight of a show like Pawn Stars, where ordinary people discover extraordinary wealth. And that is the magic of the 1983 $2 Washington Liberty coin, a story of history, errors, rarity, value, and above all possibility. And that is why we share these tales, to remind ourselves that treasure is not always buried deep in the ground but sometimes jingling in our very own pockets, waiting to be recognized, appreciated, and valued beyond imagination. My friends, today we are diving into a jaw-dropping story straight from the world of rare coins and treasures that you would not believe even if you saw it on the counter of the world-famous Pawn Stars shop, because today we are talking about the 1986 Washington $2, a coin with an official face value of just 25 cents, but one particular piece has turned into a legend by reaching a staggering worth of $12 million. And this is not a myth or an exaggeration but a story rooted in the fascinating world of mint errors, numismatic rarity, and the incredible possibilities that a small detail can bring to an otherwise ordinary coin. So sit tight and listen carefully, because what you are about to hear could make you look twice at the spare change in your pocket. It all begins with the Washington Quarter series, which started in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. And over the years it became one of the most collected and circulated coins in the history of the United States Mint, with the 1986 quarter struck at several facilities including the Denver Mint, identified by the small letter D mint mark. But here is where the twist comes in. Not every coin leaves the mint exactly as it should, sometimes due to machine malfunctions, human error, or unexpected flaws. Coins can feature double dies, off-center strikes, missing mint marks, planchet errors, and other mistakes that transform an everyday coin into a highly coveted treasure for collectors. And the 1986 Washington quarter in question is exactly one of those treasures, a coin that somehow slipped through with a series of anomalies so rare and so unique that it skyrocketed its value from a mere 25 cents to a mind-boggling $12 million. And yes, you heard that right, $12 million for a quarter that would otherwise buy you almost nothing in today's economy. Now let's break down why. When we talk about mint errors, there are several categories. The most common are die errors, such as double dies where the design is imprinted twice at a slight angle, creating a shadow-like effect on letters or numbers, or off-center strikes where the design is shifted off balance, sometimes with blank space visible on the coin. Then we have planchet errors where the blank metal disc that becomes a coin may be clipped, cracked, or made of the wrong material entirely. And finally, mint mark anomalies where the letter indicating the minting location is missing, misplaced, or stamped incorrectly. And in this particular 1986 Washington quarter, the combination of errors is what made it extraordinary. Reports suggest it features a misstruck mint mark D, possibly misplaced or doubled, coupled with an unusual surface anomaly linked to a rare die clash, and even rumors of the coin being struck on a planchet not intended for quarters at all, such as a foreign coin blank or a leftover metal planchet from another denomination, all of which makes it nearly impossible for another identical specimen to exist. Rarity is the key in numismatics. The fewer examples available, the higher the demand and the higher the price. And when you throw in the fame of this particular coin being recognized in auctions, showcased on platforms like Pawn Stars, and whispered about in coin collecting communities around the globe, the value climbs into unimaginable territories. Because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, uniqueness, and the prestige of owning something that no one else has. And that is why this quarter has reached the $12 million mark. But you might be wondering, how can a mistake add value instead of decreasing it? Well, in most industries errors mean a defective product, but in coin collecting errors mean rarity, and rarity is pure gold to collectors. For example, think of the famous 1943 copper penny, which should have been minted in steel during wartime, but a few copper blanks slipped through, and today each of those coins is worth a fortune. Or the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, where the doubling of the date and lettering created a famous variety now worth thousands. The 1986 quarter stands in the same legendary league and perhaps even higher because of its uniqueness, and that uniqueness captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike, leading to record-breaking auction prices and private sales rumored to have touched $12 million. Now if you are thinking about how to identify whether you might have one of these hidden treasures in your own collection or pocket change, you need to know the telltale signs. Check the mint mark carefully. Is the D in the wrong position, doubled, or faintly missing? Look at the strike of the design. Does Washington's profile seem off-centered? Do the letters Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled or misaligned? Examine the edges of the coin. Is the reading complete or clipped? And most importantly, does the coin weigh or feel different, suggesting it may have been struck on an unusual planchet? These details are not easy to spot with the naked eye and often require magnification and the trained eyes of a professional grader, which is why authentication by organizations like PCGS or NGC becomes critical, because when a coin of this magnitude is certified genuine, its value skyrockets further. But beyond the technicalities, part of the allure is also the human imagination, because every error coin carries a mystery, a story of how it could have escaped the strict quality controls of the US Mint, how many workers might have overlooked it, and how it managed to circulate or remain hidden until discovered. These stories fuel the romance and allure of collecting, and they are part of why shows like Pawn Stars thrive, because when someone walks in with a coin like this, the room fills with electricity, experts gather, negotiations spark, and viewers like us sit at the edge of our seats, imagining what it would feel like to hold $12 million in the palm of our hand disguised as a mere quarter. It also reminds us that the world of numismatics is not just about money but about history and possibility, because who would imagine that an object designed for daily transactions could one day buy a mansion, a yacht, or change someone's life forever? So the lesson here is never underestimate your change jar, because among the dull metal of everyday coins may hide a rare anomaly waiting to be discovered. Perhaps not another $12 million quarter, but certainly coins worth thousands or tens of thousands, and collectors all over the world are constantly hunting, trading, and dreaming of finding that one coin that makes headlines. So as you watch this story unfold, remember that the 1986 D Washington quarter is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of the strange and wonderful ways history, chance, and human curiosity intersect, a small disc of metal transformed into a priceless artifact by the stroke of imperfection. And while we cannot all be lucky enough to own it, we can all share in the wonder of its story, because in the end it teaches us to look closer, to appreciate the overlooked details, and to remember that sometimes value hides in plain sight. So keep your eyes open, your magnifiers handy, and your imagination alive, because you never know when the next legendary coin might surface, and when it does, maybe the Pawn Stars will be the first to put it under the lights and into the spotlight, where ordinary becomes extraordinary and a humble $250 becomes a $12 million miracle. And that, my friends, is the extraordinary tale of the 1986 D Washington $250, a coin that proves mistakes can sometimes be the most valuable treasures of all. So stay curious, keep collecting, and never forget that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise.